Hey, that's what's hands. Boomer, is that you?
It is me.
We can see your camera.
Yeah.
Instead of it just being black and dark and
Yeah, we got the it turned out that the light strip that I have here was on a dimmer, and it just turned out that after about 6 months the dimmer fried, so it could only put it on super low. So despite us spending something like £25 on bulbs trying to get the thing to work, it was actually the dimmer that was wrong. So we have now replaced the dimmer with an on-off switch, and what do you know? Brightness, and you can see the room. So I've had to angle the camera an awful lot more carefully so you can't see the crap that's behind me.
Well, we're going to make a two-part video anyway, since we got the full spoilers for Hearthstone. And this is kind of a warm-up, because we've all got our free arena draft that we have to play.
We do indeed.
And then, of course, when the set actually comes out on the 9th, everyone will get their 3 packs to sort of. I think it's like the crack dealer goes, "Have a few free packs. Here you go."
Well,
Get addicted.
Magic the Gathering set that precedent a long time ago with the odd free pack. Like I think, didn't you get like a Legends pack for signing up to be a DCI member? Yeah. Although it was Italian Legends at the time, which was worthless.
Anyway, so which do you want to do?
I think that we're going to start off with the neutral minions in this.
Well, neutral minions.
Well, neutral everything, but I just call it neutral minions.
And then we'll do their class-specific ones in part 2.
Yeah, we'll do all the. So you get to drool over all the Pally cards, or complain that Blizzard are giving Pally nothing as usual.
We already know it's bad.
Okay.
Without even looking at them, we know it's going to be bad.
Yeah. Now we'll probably gloss over some of the ones that we've already covered in like major detail, but the significant cards we'll definitely go over because they're going to be ones that we expect to have a big impact. But we'll start off in alphabetical order. We've got the Annoyatron first. We're starting off with a Goldsha Footman with Taunt for 1 more mana.
It's a mech, so we'll see how the mech decks play out. Really,
Yeah.
either it becomes useful or not.
Yep. Antique Healbot. Restore 8 health to your hero. Very understated for its costs, or overcosted for its stats, whichever way you want to put it. But
Again, it's a mech, but it's neutral. Some people playing control decks. I mean, I'm not sure control deck will exist. I think sort of control decks will turn into value decks personally.
yeah, I think they're going to have to go more mid-range, because especially if Mech comes potentially being this sort of super aggro deck. It's like the decks that have got sort of slow and ponderous will need to go more mid-range, which the Priest deck has already done, by going like the Undertaker,
Well, that's the thing. I
Dark
mean,
Cultist
right? You've
route.
got a few cards to deal with Death Rattle, and we'll look at those, in due time. But it doesn't actually deal with the Undertaker itself. So
Yeah, the Undertaker's just I'm still 5'6".
everyone will be playing 2 owls in their deck.
At least, yeah, I think there'll be more than that. I think Spellbreaker might even start seeing some play.
But then at some point you might go, I could play these Spellbreakers, or I could just play yet more powerful cards.
Yeah.
Like just counter his powerful cards with my powerful cards.
Yeah. And we get on to power creep, which we'll definitely discuss. Next is Arcane Nullifier X21. 2/5 taunt, can't be targeted by spells or hero powers.
We don't know how this is going to play out, do we?
I mean, you've got Spectral Knight as obviously the token boy for I can't be targeted. You've got that and Fairy Dragon. Now, I think that this is worse than Spectral Knight, but the fact it has taunt and is a mech, where that could potentially tilt it the other way, but I think this is definitely inferior to Spectral Knight currently, and we just need to see how the mech factions.
It's one of those
out.
cards where, if you play it and it stays in play for a turn, you're minted.
Yeah.
Because then you play the other guy who gives mechs +2/+2 at end of turn. All of a sudden, it's like a 4/7 with taunt that can't be targeted, and starts to get scary at that point.
Yeah.
So I think the idea is for part of the mech deck is to make this guy and slap as many buffs on it as possible.
Yeah. Although he can't be targeted by spells, so it's got to be creature-based
Yeah,
buffs.
that's right. That's why I specifically said the guy who gives +2. Now,
Next, we have Bomb Lobber.
I want to talk about the bigger version of this Madder Bomber in a bit because that's
Yeah.
quite interesting. But this it depends how aggro the aggro decks go as to whether this will be okay or
Yeah,
not.
it's another one of those cards which has, it's very overcosted for its stats, so its battle cry really needs to make a difference.
Well, it's 3 mana for a 3/3.
And then 2 to deal 4 to something. So there isn't it a mage card in this set where it's deal 4 to a random enemy minion for 2? So it's basically
Really crap.
Yeah, so it's the fact that it's bolted onto a 3/3 body enough for it to potentially see play. Depends what its competition is under that side. I think there's just too
I
many
think you're just
powerful
more
cards.
likely to just play 5/5s for 5 than you are.
Yeah. I mean, what do you expect this to see? How high would you pick this in arena, would you say?
Fairly, actually, yeah. You could certainly see a lot of arena play. That or a Zordrake might be tough.
I think you'd probably still go with Azure Drake, but because you've got the guaranteed value with Azure Drake, and it's like you throw this into play and it hits there like Mon Bashu Warden or something. It's like, well, that didn't do much. But next up, we have Boombot. Death Rattle, deal 1 to 4 damage to a random enemy.
I believe the boombots can only be summoned
Yeah,
by the big guy, if I remember.
yeah, we'll come
but
to
maybe
yeah.
maybe it'll be useful.
Yep. Next up, we have Burly Rockjaw Trog.
It's another Yeti. You'd rather play a Yeti.
Yeah, you would. I mean, your opponent's just not going to... We've been over the fact your opponent's not going to play any spell except one that kills the Trog. It's like the best you can probably hope for is that he casts a buff spell so that your Trog takes out his guy.
This is us glossing over the cards we've already looked at here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed, yep. Clockwork Giant, sort of the anti-handlock giant. I don't think it's going to see that much play.
It won't. It won't because there are times you're against aggro and you can't even play it.
Yep. Yeah. Next up, we have Clockwork Gnome. 2/1 for 1. Death Rattle, add a spare part to your hand.
Probably will go into the mech decks.
Yeah. Next up, Cogmaster. 1/2 has +2 attack when you have a mech. Can't really see this seeing too much play, to tell you the truth. I mean, there are some very, very bad mechs who cost like 1 and 0, but it's like... And I realise that there have been decks in other games in the past where you've just played a load of bad cards because the synergy between them is ridiculous, but I think in Hearthstone, especially the fact that creatures can combat each other, this sort of creature synergy
I think it'll be
makes
a
it
lot
very
easier
hard.
for your opponent to kill all your other mechs and then run his 2/2 into your 1/2.
Yeah. Enhanso Meccano. Give your other minions Wind Fury, Taunt, Divine Shield. We sort of had a big argument.
Probably
with this one, didn't we?
will get played in the mech deck if there is one. It
Yeah.
seems like giving all your guys Divine Shield or Wind Fury is really helpful.
Yeah, I mean,
the taunt sucks, but what can you do?
next up, we have the Explosive Sheep. Everyone gets an explosive trap. So, I think that's...
Control deck card, yeah.
Yeah, definitely fine there. Hunter will probably like it for the extra explosive trap plus their stupidly huge
Control
dragon.
Hunter might like it, yeah.
Next
Aggro
up,
Hunter, not so much.
yeah, Aggro Hunter kills all its own things, yeah. Fell Reaver, 5 mana for an 8/8. Whenever your opponent plays a card, discard the top 3 cards of your deck.
I've seen this in Arena. I've seen a lot of people winning games with it.
I mean, 8/8 for 5's huge, especially on a mech.
Yeah, well, like I said, I've seen a lot of people winning games with it, but having one card in the deck.
It's such a risk, isn't it? It does feel like you're very all in on it.
By the way, if you have 2 cards left in your deck, it doesn't mill any.
Oh, right. So it's not like
that's
Soulfire.
nice.
It's not like Soulfire, where if you have no other cards in hand, it's just now 1 mana deal 4 damage to target thing.
It doesn't attempt to mill 1 or 2. It just attempts to mill 0 or 3, I guess.
Well, I guess the rule in Hearthstone is if you cannot fulfill the, if you can't fulfill the action, then it doesn't do it. So if you can't discard a card to Soulfire, you don't have to.
But I think
It's
in
the same
Magic the
with this.
Gathering, it would mill.
It would just mill you out. Yeah, in Magic the Gathering.
Right.
Potentially, you can silence it. I suppose if you're really, you can just silence it with an owl.
Yeah, there's probably a silence deck. Probably a Druid silence deck or something
or
like that.
Priest, because Priest has silence and mass dispel, so there is a potential.
And Druid has their own personal extra silence for 4 mana.
Yeah, the Keeper of the Grove, which is obviously amazing.
Mass Dispel only does the opponent's minions, but there is the rare that dispels all your other minions.
Yeah, there is the 3/5 for 4, isn't it, or something like that? Yeah. Flying Machine 1/4 Wind Fury for 3.
Doesn't have flying.
Doesn't have fly. Yeah,
Not yet a mechanic.
Nope. Very poor unless there is some kind of way.
It's not even a 2/4.
No. Well, it'd be a bit ridiculous as a 2/4, really.
Well, yeah, potentially. If you buff it up, you never know. But
Give it a Blessing of Might, smack your opponent with it. I'm trying to think of things for your pallies. Next up, we have Force Tank Max, 8 mana. Yeah. 8 mana, 7/7 Divine Shield. It's a War Golem with a Divine Shield for an extra 1 mana. Seems fine. You'll pick them up in
seems
Arena.
okay for Arena, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yep. Next up, Nomarin Infantry, 1/4 charge. They really like their 1/4s for 3 in this, don't they?
Yeah, it's garbage.
That is like a terrible Stormwind Knight, and I know that you're not a fan of Stormwind Knights anyway.
Smaller version of Stormwind Knight. Ugh.
Next up, Gnomish Experimenter. 3/2 for 3, draw a card. When it comes to play, if it's a minion, transform it into a chicken. Now, we've had we had a rather heated discussion on this one, didn't we? And we ended up deciding this is fine.
Chicken costs 1 mana, doesn't it?
It's a 1 mana 1/1. Yes.
Yeah. I was hoping it would cost 0 because it's just a 1/1, but yeah, it seems okay. Nothing special.
If you draw a spell off it, you're happy days, aren't you?
Very happy, obviously.
Next up, we've got Goblin Sapper, 2/4 for 3, has 4 extra attack when your opponent has 6 or more cards in hand.
Again, you're not going to play it.
I'm sensing they're trying to print anti-hand lock cards, but the problem is that if you
put them in your deck,
you lose to everything that isn't hand lock, and you probably lose to hand lock anyway because this has 4 toughness, so therefore it dies to Soulfire. Next up, we have Goblin Stalker, 2/3 with stealth for 2.
Actually, okay. I think might turn out to be a pretty decent pick in Arena.
And apologies, it's Giblin Stalker.
Gilblin.
Gilblins. I need glasses.
Let's call it Goblins.
Goblin Stalker.
The reason I quite like it is because of the things you can do on turn 3 to buff it up.
Yeah, exactly.
So if a priest gives it +2/+4,
yeah. 4/7 attacking on turn 3.
That's pretty important. Or just giving it like a bubble with your paladin, on the turn after, something like that. I really like this because of the 3 toughness. It's got a chance to run itself into your opponent's 2/2s or 2/1s that they make on turn 1 or turn 2.
Yeah.
Plus, if you got Shattered Sun Cleric and stuff like that, suddenly it can give you that
real
tempo
threat,
shift.
yeah.
So the stealth, for the sake of Arena, is a really good mechanic.
Yeah. Next up, we have Hobgoblin. Always get the just that thing from The Simpsons where Homer picks him out of the bag and goes, Goblin. He goes, that's Hobgoblin. Sorry. I don't know the difference. I'm sure someone in the comments will educate us as to the difference between a Goblin and a Hobgoblin. 3 mana, 2/3. Whenever you play a 1 attack minion, give it +2/+2. So your 1/4s for 3 suddenly start becoming a thing. No, they probably don't.
It's whether I don't believe it'll trigger muster for battles and stuff like that, and
It won't trigger your silver
dark
hand recruits.
whispers.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, because sometimes it's quite indecisive about what constitutes being played in some games. Like,
Yeah, I think that play means play from your hand when it comes to Hearthstone. So you can play a chicken and make it 3-3.
hmm
But I think that 2-3 for 3, it's just way underpowered, and I don't think its ability. It's one of those where, like, if you're gonna play it, you're gonna play it as sort of a massive chain. You're gonna play it and then make like 5 1-drops after you've cleared the board or something. You're just gonna fill the board, and then your opponent's gonna flame strike, and you're gonna be sad. But that's the only thing where I can say I think it's a combo card more than a sort of value card. If it's
yeah, I
gonna be
can't
used
really
anywhere.
think of many one attack minions. If it was like 1-drops, if it like
Yeah,
one casting
Leper
cost,
Gnome 4-3. Yeah.
maybe it'd be a bit different.
This is where everyone's going, please do not work with Unleash the Hounds. It's just like produce a billion 3-3s.
We'll try and keep this video under an hour though by not talking about these cards too much, right?
Yeah, true. Next up, Illuminator. We're almost halfway there.
Well, it's a mage. It's kind of a mage card, really. If you think about it, yeah.
Well, as we said, Pally Secrets are crap. Hunters don't want a 2-4 for 3. So
Well, they don't really care about gaining life. Mage is the only really control deck of them all.
yeah.
So
Next up, Jeeves. It's a 1-4. We've got the guy who can be pumped by the Hobgoblin. The end of each player's turn, that player draws until they have 3 cards.
it looks nice in theory, but
In practice, no, I don't think
it's going to be very hard for people to dump the hand. I don't see it getting too much play, but I could be proved wrong.
Yep. Next up, Junkbot. 1-5 for 5. Whenever a friendly mech dies, it gains +2/+2.
Yeah, again, too slow.
I mean, you drop it and run 2 guys in, suddenly it's a 5-9 for 5.
Absolutely, yeah. But it's the times you just draw it off the top of the deck and you're like, oh, I got a 1-5.
Yeah, and Hearthstone does very much go to the top of your deck a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think in really aggressive decks, it's nice, but you already got to be ahead in those games.
Yeah. Next up, we've got Kezan Mystic. 4 mana, 4/3. Battlecry, take control of an enemy secret.
The battle cry happens before your opponent's secrets go off, so if they've got like a snipe or something, it won't trigger the snipe, which is really nice.
Yeah.
We'll see how much of a thing secrets still are,
Well,
as to whether this will get played or not.
Yeah, if Secret Mage gets played a lot, you can potentially see this happen. It's like, I'll have your duplicate. Next up, Lil Ecstasis. 2-3 with Taunt for 3. Battlecry, gain +1/+1 for each enemy Death Rattle minion. And this is one of those anti-Death Rattle cards we were sort of talking about.
I think most decks are going to play Death Rattles, right? Because they're just so good.
Pretty much all.
So, yeah.
Control decks all play Sludge Belcher, all the aggro decks play Undertaker, so therefore 10 minions with Death Rattle. Next
But there's a lot of value cards again with Death Rattle.
Yeah.
And next, another Lil Exorcist.
Yeah. Lost Tail Strider, 4 mana, 5/4 beast.
Tall Strider.
Tall Strider. I need glasses. Tall Strider. Well,
It's a beast. So it's a 4-drop beast, which is what Hunter was missing. So you might see Hunters playing it.
It's got good stats as well. 5/4 for 4. Next up, Madder Bomber. 5/4 for 5 and 6 damage to your face.
The more I think about this card, the more I think about what an important card it is. Previously in Arena, when you're getting to around turn 5, whoever's got the tempo at that point keeps it.
Yeah.
You know how it is. I mean, you know how I've been trying to teach people how to play Arena for the past year and a half. It's like, get hold of the tempo and just keep it. This is going to be a card that allows whoever's losing a chance to get back into the game.
Yeah. Because you get to play your guy, have a 5/4, and potentially kill more than one of your opponent's minions of decent size.
So if your opponent's got like a Dark Iron Dwarf in play when you play this card, and there's nothing else on there, if you think about like the 50-50 damage split that's going to happen, like 3 to the, maybe 3 to the Dark Iron Dwarf, like 2 to him, 1 to you, something like that. Potentially, there's going to be times when it just hits it for 4, and then that's it.
Yeah.
That's got you back into the game. Or there's going to be times when you might sort of run your 2/2 into their 4/4 and then just play this onto an empty board, and you only need 2 of the 6 hits to get it.
Yeah.
Which works out around 50-50 as well. So it gives you a chance to get back into a game that was otherwise lost, really.
Yeah.
So obviously you're never going to play it when you're ahead, but
Yeah.
I think you might end up picking a few of these in Arena because you can fashion what you do around it,
Yeah. Next up, we have Mechanical Yeti. It's a Chillwind Yeti that's a mech.
You're still going to pick it.
Would you pick this or Chillwind Yeti? That's the thing when you get the option given
I'd
to you.
probably pick this because it's a mech, and I might get some other cards that buff mechs up.
Yeah. There don't appear to be any anti-mech cards currently, so... Speaking of a pro-mech card, Mech Warper. Your mechs cost 1 less. We've already been over the fact I get very nervous when I see things that make things cost less. In Hearthstone, though, they don't tend to have as much of an effect because if it's on a creature, that creature will die. So...
Seems fine.
Yeah. Micro Machine. 2 mana for a 1/2, and at the start of each turn it gains +1 attack. It's a
Very bad.
Yeah. Next up, Mini Mage. 4/1 with stealth for 4 with spell damage +1. I mean, the fact it has stealth saves it somewhat, but it seems like you're paying an awful lot for that spell damage there.
Maybe you really want some spell damage.
Yep, maybe you really...
Who can say?
Maybe you really want that 7-point fireball, but... I don't know, I think you're paying a lot for spell damage. Although occasionally this will trade for a 5-drop as well once you're, something with 4 toughness. You just pray your opponent doesn't make a Madder Bomber after you've dropped that because it's definitely going to hit it. So, I'm not too sure. I mean,
It'd be a bit salty if it doesn't hit it.
Yeah, we always have our laugh about there's many crap epics in Hearthstone. This is another one where you're probably not going to want to see it when you see the purple flash. Next up, Ogre Brute. 3 mana, 4/4, 50% chance to attack the wrong enemy. I think this is really powerful for 3 mana. It's like 4/4s for 3. I mean, we've seen Dancing Swords, and that has a really significant downside. But this guy doesn't seem to have that much of a massive downside. It's like you could potentially, I suppose, start losing tempo to it. If you're like, I want to take out your 3/2, and it just goes, I'm going face, screw you. It's like all of a sudden then you could end up losing a bit of tempo. But I just think that these guys that are like heavily over, they're not overpowered, but they are more stats than what you would expect for the cost. The 50% chance is probably a risk worth taking.
We'll see how it plays out in Arena. What we might do is just like deliberately pick some of the newer cards once we get into playing Arena just to see how they actually interact.
Yep. We'll go all mechs for Arena, see if we can manage it.
Definitely, I think as a mechanic it's pretty powerful. Right.
Next up, Piloted Shredder. 4 mana, 4/3. Summon a random 2-cost minion. This is pretty good. We sort of figured...
You're going to pick it. You're going to pick it a lot in Arena when it's offered to you.
Yeah. Next up, Piloted Sky Golem, which is ridiculous. We've been over this as well. We really like this.
Yeah, the larger version, which is why, again, they made it epic. So this will be the epic you do take when it's offered.
Yeah, this is the example of a non-crap epic. Next up, Puddle Stomper. It's a 3/2, but it's a Murloc. So it's another one to add to the Murloc deck. It's basically the Murloc version.
Chamois.
Yeah, Murloc version of Bloodfen Raptor, isn't it? Because Bloodfen's a beast. So.
Yeah, so Chamois love them.
Yep. Recombobulator. 3/2 for 3. Transform a friendly minion into a random minion with the same cost.
I like it, but then purely because of the priest deck that I wanted to put it in. It'll just be like, pinch your guy temporarily and turn it into another guy.
Yeah. Next up, we have Salty Dog.
It's just a guy, isn't
Yeah,
it?
they're trying to push pirates, but it's not happening. Next up, Ship's Cannon. 3 mana, 2/3. Whenever you summon a pirate, deal 2 damage to a random enemy. Yep, they really want us to play pirates.
Needs more pirates though, and
Yeah.
it needed to be a mech itself or a pirate of some kind,
Yeah.
you know.
Spider Tank. Perfect example of power creep.
Spider tank
Yep.
does whatever a spider tank can.
Yeah. It's an example of power creep, perfect example of one, and I think that you'll
And being a mech,
yeah,
it might end up pretty sizable by
yeah.
the end.
It's like I
Yeah.
think you'll take this very highly in arena. Next up, Stone Splitter Trog, 2/3 for 2. Whenever your opponent casts a spell, it gains +1 attack.
Stone Splinter.
It's early morning, leave me alone. Yeah, the spell that'll get cast at it's
It's a 2/3 for 2. It's fine as a 2-drop, but it's just a 2/3. Your opponent's never going to cast a spell that doesn't kill it.
Next up on our subject of Goldshift Frutman, we have Target Dummy. It's a 0/2 mech for naught with taunt. Like, why? This is the example of a card that won't get played at all unless mechs are brutally overpowered, at which point you will play this because you want an early game mech.
I mean, you might even play it in a deck with like a Cult Master or something.
Yeah.
A Cult Master guy that replaces itself because you're going to have to fight through it to get to the Cult Master.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah. Probably somebody wants to abuse it somehow, somewhere. We shall wait and see.
Next up, Tinkertown Technician. 3/3 for 3. If you control a mech when it comes to play, gain +1/+1 and put a spare part in your hand. That seems really good.
Yep. Looks really good, doesn't it? 4 mana, 3. You know,
I mean, that could be a 3
for 3, should I say?
3 mana 4/4 which draws you a card when it comes into play if you control a mech.
A crap card draws you a crap card, but some of those.
Some of them can be kind of useful. You know, they're not great, but you know. Well, speaking of the spare parts, we're moving on to the spare parts now. First up, we've got armor plating, which we like.
I like. Yep, it's the best of them, personally.
Emergency coolant freezes something.
Has its moments.
More freeze mage. Next up, Finickety Cloak Field gives stealth until next turn, though it doesn't give perma stealth.
If you could always have a card, you would go for that one.
Yeah.
You know, because it interacts really well with a lot of other cards. But
like your mech that gives +2/+2 if you're a rogue, it just stays in play, yeah.
But, you know, unfortunately there's no guarantee of getting that one, therefore you can't build the rest of your deck around it.
Correct. Next up, Reversing Switch, swap a minion's attack and health.
Fruity, it will have its moments.
Yep. Rusty Horn, give a minion taunt.
They did just go with the Vuvuzela there, didn't they?
Yeah, if the animation doesn't go when you're doing it, I will be very disappointed in Blizzard. Because there's too much of an opportunity.
But the idea is that it's very annoying, and that's why you want to attack it.
Yeah. Next up, Time Rewinder. Return a friendly minion to your hand. Miracle Rogue would have...
Fine, for when stuff gets silenced or damaged, you know, you just want to pick it up.
Yep.
So you may occasionally use that.
And obviously the counterpart to the armor one, Whirling Blades, give a minion +1 attack. It's probably the weakest of all of the spare parts.
Like Pally might find it useful. I'm not sure much of the others will.
Yeah. Where we found something you like for Pally. And now we're on to the legends. We have Blingtron 3000. Equip a random weapon for each player. Have your Ooze as standby or your Harrison.
Yeah, definitely you're going to have Ooze and Harrison in the same deck. You'll see a lot more people playing Harrison.
Yeah. And it's a mech as well, so... Always have to point out, and it's a mech. Dr. Boom, 7 mana, 7/7, and he's the guy who summons the boom bots. So more Golem with a little bit of bonus going in there.
Yeah, it's fine at the moment. We'll see how it all plays out, but there's not many amazing 7-drops.
Nope. Next up, Foe Reaper 4000. The 6/9 also damage the minions next to it. So if he attacks, he will punch everything on the board really hard.
But your opponent gets to decide what he wants to do next turn.
Although
before it gets to attack.
does have an advantage of not being big game
It's got a
hunterable.
fat ass as well.
Yeah.
That's also quite an
Yeah,
advantage.
you can't big game hunter it, and it's got a really fat ass. So
But it's more as to, whether you'd take out Ragnaros or something else to put it in, because it's in
yeah,
the same slot.
yeah, because Warrior has Gromash in that slot, which is obviously not going to take out. So
And Alex Strasser and things like that. There's
well, Alex is
a lot of
9, and
things that you fight for at 8 mana.
next up we've got Gazlo. I think I got that right. 3/6 for 6. Whenever you cast a 1-mana spell, add a random mech to your hand.
So it's whenever you cast a spare part. That's
Yeah.
ultimately, what you're going to be using it with.
Feels potentially dangerous, but I'm not too sure why.
Yeah, I think it's balanced,
They're very wary, but they must be very wary about whether they want to print another gadget san and cause like another like massive combo.
I mean, I think the main problem, as always, is that it won't be consistent enough. So if you sort of pack your deck, with a few cards that are going to give you spare parts, and then you never draw your Gazlo, you're like, oh,
Yeah, like
you're stuck with a bunch of spare cards that you don't get to play.
I've got some really bad cards. Next up, we have Hemet Nessingwary. 6/3 for 5. Destroy a beast when he comes in.
Won't see any play, cause
The only beast you want
there's
to
no
destroy.
guarantee. Yeah,
The only beast you want to destroy is Savannah Jaime. That's probably not great. Secondary.
yeah, 'cause it's not an enemy beast. It's just a beast.
Yeah, and it only works against hunter decks, and then you'll get paired up against a handlock and go, oh, I've got a 6/3. They go, that's nice, dear, and then just kill you for playing it. Next up, Mechgineer Thermoplug. 9/7 for 9. Whenever an enemy minion dies, summon a leper gnome. Competing with a lot again in the 9 slot. He's competing with Alex Strasser. He's competing.
Yeah, I mean
with,
it's an aggro deck card, but it costs 9 mana.
Yeah, and he's competing with Ysera as well. So there's a lot for him to be competing with there.
Yeah, it feels like the idea behind it is you play it and then you run your guys into their guys and get a bunch of leper gnomes. But
likelihood, not too sure.
mm-hmm.
Mimron's Head, 5 mana 4/5. At the start of your turn, if you have at least 3 mechs, destroy them all and form Voltron.
Yeah, there might be like a rogue stealth deck, quite possibly.
Yeah, you like make some mechs, make this, then cast Conceal and just let it go.
Yeah, cast Conceal. Mimron's Head goes off. Voltron comes in. You give it cold blood, and they're dead. You're doing 30 damage in a turn.
Yeah. And it's at the start of your turn. Having said that, though, it says form Zoltron. I'm guessing Voltron won't be able to attack the turn that you make him.
Yeah, it's got charge, Voltron.
Oh, does it? Oh, right.
Yeah, it's got everything. It's got Super Wind Fury.
Yeah, it's got Mega Wind Fury, doesn't it? So, yeah, it will be a one-shot kill, that. So, yay, all you guys out there. Another rogue combo deck. Go.
Here's the troll card, though.
Mogor the Ogre. All minions have a 50% chance to attack the wrong enemy. There's always got to be a troll card of some description, hasn't there? I mean, there was Troll Dormu in set 1 as well.
Pally Control might play this as a novelty item, because it just make a bunch of 1/1s and just be really annoying.
Yeah, it's like, so you want to go face? No, kill my 1/1. Yet another example of Pally going, go and die for your master. Not too far away from the Lich King, really.
Like playing that and Muster for Battle on the same turn, but it won't live long. It'll die to a spell, like everything.
Yeah. A fireball.
It'll just get hexed, yeah.
Next up, Schneed's Old Shredder, which actually has similar art to the 6 mana 6/4 that summons a 4.
Fine card, yeah.
Yeah, 5 again, 8 mana, competing for all those legendary.
As long as you don't get a 1-drop and 2-drop legendary, you're fine.
You get Nat Pagel.
Great.
Or you'll get Millhouse. It'll be if I do this, I'll get Millhouse Manstorm off.
You can get Sneed's Old Shredder from Sneed's Old Shredder, which is like living the dream at that point.
Yeah, my invincible Sneed. Or you'll get like Alex. Well, I mean, so that you get an 8.
There was other people have already said, it's just like, sup dog, I heard you like Sneed's Old Shredder, so I put a Sneed's Old Shredder in your Sneed's Old Shredder. But the other, of course, living the dream is getting Kel'Thuzad from it, and
Yeah,
then
because it
bringing
just
back
summons itself back.
Sneasel
Yeah,
Shredder,
yeah.
and getting a second Kel'Thuzad off the Sneasel Shredder, going nice.
Next one is Toshli. Battle Cry and Death Rattle add a spare part. Maybe goes with the 3/6, so you can make some more. Make
It's
some
got
more
an okay
mechs.
body on it, you know. I mean, it's
Yeah,
competing with Cairn and stuff, and
Sylvanas.
Sylvanas for
Yeah,
the
I mean
sixth slot.
it's bigger than both of those, so you know
Hmm
5/7's fairly sizable, and the spare parts can be useful. You know, you'll probably either big up its attack or defense when it comes in. So I think that's fine. And finally, before we get to vote, we have my favourite flavour card. We have Trogzor the Earthinator. You know, this joke's only, what, 10 years old now or something, but...
Well, oh, I frozen on the camera. Look at that.
yeah.
No.
Oh, well. Your expression is one of glumness.
Serious.
Trogzor the Earthinator is a serious card.
When your opponent casts a spell, summon a Burly Rocked Your Trog. So you're guaranteed a Burly Rocked Your Trog, right?
Yeah, because your opponent's going to have to use a spell
Yeah,
to kill this, usually, yeah.
A Burly Rocked Your Trog is a 3/5.
3/5 that whenever your
Yeah.
opponent casts a spell, it gains +2 attack.
So that seems 7 mana for a 6/6 and a 3/5.
Yep.
Feels
Feels
decent,
fine,
doesn't it?
yeah. Feels absolutely fine. As we've said, there's not much in the 7 area, is there, for...
And some of the time they're gonna have to summon 2 spells to deal with it, and you're like, whoop, value.
Many Trogs.
Yeah, so I actually might think this does see a chunk of play, to be honest.
Yeah. And it's got a cool...
In the value decks, because
Yeah.
it just screams value.
Well, 7's one of those cards where you're not quite in the mega end game at that point, are you? I mean, Druid might like this just to ramp into it as well.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty powerful card if you ramp into it.
Yeah.
Very awkward to deal with there.
So next, and finally, of course, we have Voltron, and yes, it does have charge, so you are right, the rogue deck will just one-hit kill with this thing.
Previously, just remember on the preview, it is when they cast a spell as opposed to a minion, just to correct
Yeah.
that for people. But yeah, like if they're making small minions, it doesn't really
It
bother you
doesn't
too
really
much.
matter, you've got a 6/6, and if you're playing Druid, you'll probably just kill everything at that point, just Starfall. Voltron, yeah.
That's charge.
One-hit kill.
Can
Probably.
only be summoned through Miron's head. So
Yeah, and he's a mech as well, just randomly, just in case you need more mechs. I think if you've got Voltron in play, you don't really care about the mech synergy. You're probably just winning that turn. So that's it for all the neutral cards, and we will be moving on to the class-specific cards
Yep.
in the next video.
I think they've done an okay job. It's going to be interesting to see what cards were deliberately underpowered because, you know, if they had 1 extra toughness, they would have been ridiculous or something like that. You know how these games, they spend a lot of time trying to get the balance right, but sometimes they still don't have it wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I think that...
We can briefly talk about the 3 cards that have been nerfed as well, I guess. Gadget
Yeah,
and
we
Auctioneer. That got nerfed, so it's cost 1 extra mana now, 6 up from 5, and that was because of all those spare parts you're going to draw.
Yeah, because like we're saying like Gadget San and the 3/6, suddenly you're now drawing 2 cards every time you play every time you play a spare part. So I think that that was fine. I think it was also sort of the... I don't think I'm not too sure Miracle Rogues gonna see too much of a resurgence, but it's like I think that they had to sort of do something about Gadget Sam because people have been calling for it to be nerfed for absolutely ages. They might have waited too long on it.
I can definitely see picking Gadgets and a lot more in Arena, though.
Because of the spare parts and all,
yeah.
The other one, of course, we have Flare's gone up to 2 mana, hasn't it, from 1?
Yep, yeah, because it draws a card, it shouldn't cost 1 mana.
Yeah, because it also
With that ability and drawing a card.
the secret as well. The other one, of course, is Soulfire now, costs 1 rather than 0.
Which I agree with. Yeah, it's a good
Yeah, I mean,
change.
it's just so annoying the fact that especially in Zoolock, where it's like they can just flood the board with guys and still have this 0 mana kill your guy spell. You say, and it doesn't cost them anything either because they've probably discarded their hand at this point before they tap. So,
Yeah.
to me that's a fairly big no-brainer as well. Soulfire was just really too powerful.
You can't see, but I'm nodding.
Yeah.
You just have to assume I'm nodding.
Yeah, I mean, I'm perfectly fine with all of the changes, to tell you the truth.
I don't know, as this is any card particularly you think we've got wrong, don't forget to leave something in the chat.
Yeah, we do answer our chats
Occasionally.
okay, but that is it for this one, guys. Join us next time for the class specific cards, where Ribbo will get to complain about how Paladin's been screwed over again.
Oh, I think everyone's already complained on my behalf for that. Yeah.
And for Ribbo, this is Boomer, and thanks very much for watching, and we will see you next time.
Ta-ta.